Hi, I'm just sharing this clip, which is from the Rational National, and a clip of it has been shared on Twitter and other places. And hats off to this presenter at Sky News that is exposing this. It would be nice if we could see more of this kind of exposure of the kind of actually criminal shenanigans that are going on, that went on during the Brexit referendum, are going on during this GE, which is why people like myself are really asking for this GE to be suspended now, that Boris Johnson should step down as Prime Minister. We need an interim government before we have a GE, because we can't really trust the results of any general election held under authority of a criminal government that itself is already, the Russia report is exposing problems within the Brexit referendum. The security of our the security of that referendum and other elections in Britain has been influenced by foreign powers. We know for a fact that Boris Johnson and his entire cabinet are agents of foreign powers. People like Trump, people like Netanyahu, people like Russian oligarchs with connections to Russian government, because we're looking at mainly financial interests and far-right political interests that have a collective intent of denying the citizens' human rights, workers' rights, environmental protection laws, health and safety regulations, demolishing our NHS, free education, all of these social advances that we've made. These people collectively wish to erase from existence and basically send the whole world back into some kind of feudal system where corporate capitalism is the aristocracy, forms the aristocracy, is basically what we are looking at. Now, what Sky News exposes here is the latest shenanigan, which is the tactical vote. It's been very heavily pushed. It's been pushed on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and this is part of their campaign, and especially the LibDems promote this because they're the ones that most benefit from it. Now, what's disturbing here is they've given a false premise, haven't they? You see, they are showing that the Conservatives in the last election got 38%. Apparently the Lib Dems got 32% and Labour only got 8%. So therefore, if you were in this area, Bath and North East Somerset, and you received a pamphlet through your door showing you this, and people are asking you to tactically vote for Lib Dem if you were, say you're a Labour supporter and you don't want the Conservatives to get back in, or say you're a Conservative and you're absolutely disappointed, disgusted with what they've been doing, and actually you've decided to switch over to Labour because you definitely don't want them to get back in. So if you were facing this, who would you vote for? Oh, I better vote Lib Dem because Labour's not going to get in. If I vote Labour, Conservatives are still going to get in. So I'll be better off voting for Lib Dem. We'll say the disgruntled Conservatives. Labour voters. Oh, I better not vote Labour because I'm just wasting my vote. Conservatives will get in again. I better vote Lib Dem. You see? Tactical voting. Forget it. Vote with your head and your heart. And so I'm just going to play you this clip.
between the Conservatives on 38% and the Lib Dems on 32%, until you look at the very, very tiny small print at the bottom, which says the question was, imagine that the result in your constituency was expected to be very close between the Conservative and Liberal Democrat candidates, and none of the other parties were competitive. In this scenario, which party would you vote for? And I just want to show the last result from this constituency at the last election, which hopefully we should be able to bring up now, which shows that actually the Conservatives were on 53% and Labour were on 34%, the Lib Dems on 8.3%. I mean, this is entirely misleading, isn't it?
Well, I think politics has changed significantly since the 2017 election.
On. No, it has. No, this is embarrassing.
No, it has. It has.
Yes, it is embarrassing. So that's reality. Okay, that was the reality of the previous GE. And then when you compare it to that, so by what right could any party put this on their as part of their campaign, which is precisely to persuade people to vote tactically, because according to them, if Labour voters had voted Liberal Democrats, the Conservatives wouldn't have got in, because the Liberal Democrats would have won by 2%. And, you know, it's very serious this time, because we're talking about leaving the EU. So if you want to stay in the EU, you've got to make that your priority and just vote Lib Dem. I mean, she's hardly got a manifesto. So in reality, what this should have shown is this should be red, that's blue, that's red, that should be orange. So if you were a Lib Dem supporter and you wanted to stop the Conservatives getting in, or you were a Conservative supporter now disgruntled with your party and definitely don't want Brexit, then really you'd be better off voting Labour, wouldn't you? You see, if you were going along with the tactical vote. But actually, just vote Labour. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking at, forget, everything's changed now. Britain is not the country it once was. These political parties are not the political parties they once were. For a start, we've got Jo Swinson here. Margaret Thatcher is her hero. Now, I know a lot of people still support Margaret Thatcher. The vast majority of them actually have no idea that the woman was a criminal. Right? She was a criminal. She stood with criminals. She supported criminals. She loved Pinochet. She covered up organised child sexual abuse committed by men like Edward Heath that she knew about. Jimmy Savile, there at Chequers with Margaret Thatcher, gets a knighthood. Edward Heath gets a knighthood. According to the evidence I've seen that's out there, Margaret Thatcher was involved in the manufacture of illegal nuclear weapons and the disposal of them in South Africa, and that also included pilfering millions from the public purse that went straight into the Tory party accounts. All of these things need investigating. Margaret Thatcher was a criminal. So basically she wants to put a monument up for a criminal. A criminal is her hero. A criminal that robbed Britain of our industries, jobs, rights, you name it. She's a complicit. That's what she is. That people who support criminals, all right, they might not commit crimes themselves, though I would say this is a crime of deception, fraud actually, designed to persuade people to act against their own best interests. I think that's a very serious crime myself. But she's a complicit, because we know for a fact that it was the Lib Dems that allowed the Tories into number 10 in the first place, to form this coalition that has gone on to murder over 130,000 by now British people with an economic policy that she's voted with them every step of the way. The only thing they disagree on, really, is Brexit. The other choice of political party are criminals, you know, have even openly, publicly stated that they're willing to break the law, have been found guilty by the Supreme Court of unlawfully shutting down Parliament, even lying to the Queen, lying to the British public. Apparently, despite his blatant lies, the corrupt High Court of Britain has stated that Boris Johnson can't be prosecuted for lying. And about something as serious as leaving the EU and all of the damages that that would inflict. Damages against our economy, damages against our very structure of our United Kingdom, loss of jobs, people losing homes, everything. Turning our country into a tax haven, leaving it wide open to exploitation by, you know, criminal finances from all over the world. You know, they basically want London to become the money laundering capital of the world. And that does include golden visas, citizenship to anybody with enough money to buy themselves a vote in Britain. These are very serious developments. So they're the choices that we're faced with now. Because this is 2019, we've witnessed a coup, we've got criminals at number 10, our security services are defunct because they just failed to act. Most of our MPs are only just realising that what you know, the severity of what is happening. So our choices for this election are criminals, the Conservatives, their complicits, the Lib cons, as I call them, the Liberal Democrats, or law-abiding, lawful human beings. People who want to uphold the law, uphold our rights, defend our democracy, defend our United Kingdom, defend and strengthen our economy, improve people's living standards, protect our health and safety laws, protect our environment, protect our workers' rights. That's it. That's why for the first time in 30 years I'm voting. Because this isn't a political vote. This is a vote for humanity or against it. Well, I'm going to vote for humanity. The humanity that my granddad sacrificed his life for. And many more along with him. The humanity that women like my grandmother, she was a war nurse, struggled, suffered and survived and brought children into this world for a better world, a future for their children. That they have rights and never again are subject to the serfdoms of a feudalist system. That capitalism will become, if it's allowed to run amok, unchecked. And that's what's going on right now in our world. They wish to appropriate everything we have, everything we've worked for. They want to appropriate it. All the new technology is going to belong to them, to give them even more power to manipulate and control us, and in the meantime strip us of our rights and even buy our politicians to subvert our democracy to the extent that we're actually persuaded to vote for fascists on lies, when democracy is there to prevent fascism, the rise of fascism. And the only reason why they've been able to do it is because they do have such control over the media, and thankfully there are small pockets within the medias that will give us some information now and again. But on the whole, you know, I strongly advise people to check out things like the Rational National, the Canary, the Real News Network, and Democracy Now! Shares quite a lot of interesting information. But you do also need to check out those media networks as well. Like, for example, RT is very pro-Brexit. So, you know, we need to be aware. But I think Sky here, hats off to them for sharing this. The BBC, absolutely abominable approach. You know, really, this should have been exposed by the BBC. So, we need to understand exactly what is going on and actually the seriousness of the situation, the severity of the situation. We are talking about the cloven hoof of fascism being right at our door. And we're not going to be able to trust criminal complicits to keep that door shut. We certainly cannot put our faith in criminals. We need to stand with human beings. And that's it, you see. So, as far as I'm concerned, the politics have gone out of this. We're talking about our rights. And it is perfectly right that, look, if Britain is going to leave the EU at some point in the future, because certainly we're in no fit state to be leaving right now. It's like saying, I'm leaving home when you're in the middle of suffering pneumonia. We're going through austerity. You don't put yourself through leaving Europe while you're going through that. Labour's policies are designed to restore Britain to the state that we were when we entered the EU, which was an independent nation with lots of trade deals around the world, with our own industries, our own independently owned and nationalised industries, independently run and national services, a viable economy with our own strong pound, our own currency, a sovereign nation, a united kingdom. We chose to enter the EU. Well, in fact, the Tories took us in there without even a referendum. It was Labour that had to come in and gave us a referendum afterwards and offered us a deal that Labour had organised, or to stay in the EU, and people actually voted to stay in the EU. And now we're back in that situation again, but in the reverse. That the Tories did give us a referendum this time to leave, but it was a thoroughly corrupt and criminal referendum. And now we're in the situation where Labour's offering us again, well, we'll negotiate a deal worth having, or you can stay in the EU. History repeating itself. But Labour is committed to building Britain up back to the level that we were when we entered the EU. You see, these aren't. These just want to break our nation down. They're quite happy to lose Scotland, lose Ireland, even Wales, turn Britain into a tax haven. No more general elections here. Democracy dead and done with. And these complicits will just be there every step of the way. Because they have no policies, really, other than same old, watered down conservative policies. Their only promise is that, well, we'll just cancel Article 50. When actually they have no right to do that, because again, the public have a right to have another vote. It has to go back to the public. And now thoroughly informed public, and that's why the Brexit Conservative Party don't want another referendum, because they know that now people have seen through their lies and false promises that actually they want to stay in the EU rather than face the alternative of 50 years of austerity on steroids under martial law and a thoroughly corrupt criminal government. So there's your choices, people. The criminal party, the complicit party, or the human party. That's it. This election isn't about politics. It's about life and life's rights, you see. And that's where we need to be. That's where our thinking needs to be at. Not on, oh, well, I've always been a Tory supporter and, oh, you know, LibDems. Forget it. We've got fascism at the door. Like I say, personally, I don't think there should be a GE held under a lawfully suspect as criminal government that has already operated lawfully suspect elections and referendums. I think that itself is a crime. It's criminal negligence not to address that and to allow them to hold another GE. To even give them a sniff at getting more power, I think is to put this nation at further risk of actually a lawfully identified risk. You see, that's what's important about it, because we know the Russia report exists. It relates to very serious concerns related to the elections held in Britain now and the people running those elections at the head of those campaigns. So with that lawful evidence, you know, and yet knowingly then our authorities that we trust to protect the people are doing nothing, and instead this GE is going through. So therefore, there's your choices, people. Criminals, they're complicits, or law-abiding citizens who are committed to establishing and upholding and defending the law as and applying it equally to everybody in Britain, regardless of how much money you do or do not have.